Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this virtual talk with Deborah Teresco on Venetian glass then and now. I'm Mary Savage, the Lloyd Herman Curator of Craft at the Smithsonian American Art Museum's Renwick Gallery. Please use the Q&A box to ask any questions. We will share key information with you throughout the program via the chat box. We also ask that you not close your browser window, as a survey will appear after the program, and we appreciate your feedback about the program today. This program is being recorded and will be available on our website. It is also being live captioned, which you can access with the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. The Smithsonian American Art Museum and Renwick Gallery is a nonprofit organization that relies on private donations. We're able to share free digital programs like this one today, thanks to funding from generous supporters like you. Please consider showing your support with a donation today. A link to donate on our website was just posted in the chat box. Thank you, Deborah, and everyone whose behind the scenes work made this event possible tonight. In New York, we're so grateful to the talented team at Urban Glass for allowing us to use this fantastic space for a program. And here at the Renwick Gallery of the American Art Museum, we're grateful for Gloria Kenyon, Jessica McFadden, Sofia Deloche, Elisa Tamarchenko, Carlos Parada, and our captioner, Karen Schmieder, who have all helped us run this program smoothly. Once again, please fill out the survey in your browser and let us know what you enjoyed about today's program. So this program tonight is really exciting because it brings together two exhibitions featuring glass currently on view. First is The first one is Sargent Whistler and Venetian Glass, American Artists and the Magic of Murano, an exhibition that brings to life the Venetian glass revival of the late 19th century, when Murano glassmakers began specializing in delicate and complex hand-blown vessels, dazzling the world with brilliant colors and sculptural flourishes. American painters and their patrons visited the glass furnaces, and many collected vessels decorated with flowers, dragons, and sea creatures. This exhibition features more than 140 objects, including glass objects in conversation with paintings, watercolors, and prints by talented American artists who found inspiration in Venice. This exhibition was curated by Alex Mann and will be on view at the Smithsonian American Art Museum through May 8, 2022. New Glass Now, organized by the Corning Museum of Glass, is a global survey of the breadth and depth of contemporary glass art. The exhibition highlights the innovation and dexterity of artists, designers, and architects from around the world working in the challenging material of glass. Its presentation at the Renwick Gallery features objects, installations, videos, and performances made by 50 artists working in more than 23 countries. From technically masterful vessels to experiments in the chemistry of glass, and of course, a glass meat chandelier, these works challenge the very notion of what the material of glass is and what it can do. The exhibition was curated by Susie Silbert, Curator of Modern and Contemporary Glass at the Corning Museum of Glass. New Glass Now will be on view at the Renwick Gallery through March 6, 2022. These two exhibitions tell very different stories about glass in an international context. And yet, when considered together, new questions arise. What is the enduring influence and relevance of Venetian glass in contemporary American art? With this in mind, I'm looking forward to talking with artist Deborah Teresco. Deborah, could you turn your video and audio on, please? Based in New York, Deborah uses a range of approaches and techniques in her work, including hot glass sculpting, performance, and collaboration. She began working with glass at Urban Glass in 1987 after earning a BA in psychology from Rutgers University. In 1992, she earned a graduate degree in studio art at Tulane University. Since then, she's been a glassblowing instructor and visiting artist at many universities and schools throughout the United States and in Europe. In 2019, she won the first season of Blown Away, a glassblowing competition television series currently available on Netflix. And she's joining us tonight from Urban Glass in New York. As we'll soon discuss in detail, Deborah's work is inspired by personal experience and the mundane details of everyday life, with subjects including chewed gum, car mufflers, potatoes, and yes, meat. To draw out the playfulness and poignancy of Deborah's work, we've juxtaposed her artworks tonight with paintings and glass vessels from Sergeant Whistler and American Glass. The show has given us an opportunity to consider some historical context in conversation with Deborah's creative career. So first, we wanted to talk a little bit about the space of the Hot Shop. Deborah, I'd love to hear your experience of the dynamics of the Hot Shop. Blown Away captured, I think, the thrill and unpredictability of glass blowing, and often the heartbreak. How did you first step into the Hot Shop?
Oh, first of all, thanks for having me here tonight, Mary. Excited to be coming to you live from the Hot Shop, Urban Glass in Brooklyn, New York. And honestly, this is kind of where I found glass. It was this place that was formative in my glass career. And like glass itself, it seemed like a mysterious calling to me. But I walked up the ramp to this hot shop and saw the goo being formed and was drawn to it energetically. So my life was changed. It was kind of my material equivalent of me, because I saw it as this incredibly androgynous material that went between states of hard and soft, sharp and soft, and like inviting and clear and opaque, all these contradictions that added up to one beautiful, mysterious thing. So I related to it.
Yeah, and I think on the left, you'll see a painting of Murano Studio as observed by American artist Charles Frederick Ulrich. And to your point, this painting also illuminates the theatrical quality and allure of glass studios. Here, men are working their magic in these heroic feats of strength, and a trio of women in the front are flirting and giggling with the glass blowers and also with tourists who are coming in. And they're being encouraged to look closely and really enjoy this process of glass being blown into intricate and beautiful vessels. And here they're making some goblets you can see in the painting. So I was just thinking of how they are making really beautiful forms, often described as fairy-like and delicate. And what are you working on in your photo?
In that photo, I'm at Coring Museum on my residency, fabricating a wheel cover for a car, which will later be mirrorized and shiny for an installation. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm using subject matter that's very personal to me. And the experience of being that I talk about and being in the hot shop is also very personal in regards to not only was I struck by the glass, but I was struck by who was in the hot shop floor 30 plus years ago when I started glass blowing, and there wasn't very many people where I saw myself reflected. And I saw this as kind of this continuum of my personal experience. When I went to college, I was on the varsity volleyball team and really wanted to be a successful athlete at the time, but saw really no future in it. There was like, where do you go as a female athlete? And then I saw this idealistic ex-college student coming out into the world and seeing like, oh, this is real life too. Now here, then it's like, so it really drove me to want to become a master of this material and take on subject matters which reflected this experience.
And I think in a lot of ways, your subject matter play with this juxtaposition that's happening in studios. What's going on in the painting is that it's men creating these really beautiful floral forms that would become souvenirs. And you're really flipping the script. And so I'll show a detail of the hubcap with one of the goblets. Can you talk a little bit more about why you made wheel covers and the gendering of materials?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious in the world we assign gender to almost everything around us. be it metal or yarn or whatever, that it comes with this preconceived notion of such societal notion of what gender that thing is and where does that come from. I'm not exactly sure the history of all that stuff, but what it made me want to do is just reinvent it for myself as something kind of empowering. So if I saw steel, I now made it in glass, and it became this, like I said, glass is very androgynous, so it became this like sort of non-binary material to me. And in this case, the hub wheel covers, not hubcaps, are considered the jewelry of the car. So gearheads have told me these wheel covers are considered jewelry of the car, and I thought that was very interesting. This is a very vain part of the car, very masculine, vain part of the car. So I'm really dealing with these, like all this kind of influence of gender and gender materials and gender, how we perceive things. And the psychology, I studied psychology in undergraduate school, and the psychology side of me really sort of prepped me to get into this kind of mode of thinking about things, like where does it come from? What age do we get imbued with these ideas, and how does it happen? And then, I mean, it goes on and on where these subjects go. I mean, obviously they've been used to oppress people or marginalize people, these ideas of or market to people. It's like the power is in these things, obviously. So I like what glass can do to different materials, how it can transform it.
I think that question about power is a good one, and leads to our next slide, which is this painting and related work. The painting is by John Singer Sargent of a Venetian Woman. This is a life-size picture of a woman who embodies the mysterious and sensual character of Venice. So who has the power to show her and see her in Venice? As Alex Mann explained in the catalog, she is actually Sargent's model, and she poses as a woman who sorts canes of glass by color in Venice. So in her hand are canes of blue glass. This is a task done by piecework labor outside of bead factories throughout the islands. The woman's labor is essential to the economy and culture of Venice, but her own body becomes the surrogate for the fragile vessels and the gritty environs of Venice. So with this in mind, I wanted to talk about your next work, The Muffler, and how, again, I think you're upending these intersections of a lot of different hierarchies, and instead of you're really unpacking them in really interesting ways. So could you talk a little bit about the backstory and your personal memory that informs The Muffler? Oops.
This car, I grew up with a brother who was 1 year older than me, and he was a motorhead. He was constantly disassembling cars and reassembling them. And I thought it was an amazing thing, but there really was a division of the things he could do in my family and what I was doing, like vacuuming and stuff like that, and sewing. And I just really wanted to also be a car mechanic. It's pretty funny. And so I started to think, and this is a very recent piece about, once again, materials and metal, and transforming that material into this sort of glorious thing. Like, this is a car exhaust. It's spewing out this sort of ejaculate of hideous smoke. But in this case, I transform it into a gorgeous Venetian cane-worked billow of smoke, and this beautiful mirrorized exhaust that now becomes this glorious part of the car. So I'm trying to like own this as an empowering thing, as opposed to like toxic masculinity, which would be represented by the car exhaust, is now untoxic masculinity that sort of I'm embodying in myself. Just because I am born a female doesn't mean I can't also be masculine. So, but I don't want it to be toxic, so I get to choose.
Yeah,
and that piece sort of talks about that.
Yeah, and you're switching a gaze too, where in the Venetian Woman, we don't know anything about her, and it's not really about her own experience. Here, your works become really inflected with your own life experience. This is another work, Venetian Glass Workers, that shows inside a shop in Venice that is dark except for the luminous panes of glass. Women are seated cutting them into beads, which will be polished and globally disseminated. Their faces are obscured. As Stephanie Meyer Haight notes in the catalog, this picture and others like it share a strategy of deliberate emotional disengagement. The works in their work, made invisible, are merely parts of a larger whole. And I think this is a really interesting facet that speaks to a larger conversation about craft histories versus painting and sculpture histories, where the labor that turns cane work into beading and then a lot of beadwork itself is often a different kind of labor that is recognized in vastly different ways than, say, John Singer Sargent himself. So with this in mind, I wanted to look at your own beadwork and one of your early works called Peach. Could you give us a little bit of backstory on how Peach came to be and the craft kit that inspired it?
Yes, this is beginning my dialogue. I think this piece is the beginning of my dialogue about crafting, who crafts, who's empowered by craft, who takes things from craft and uses them. And just this idea of crafting. In my lifetime, I've seen like the word craft be used, taken out of organizations' names, taken out of school programs. And I personally thought this is a little nuts, crazy. Like I saw that my hands and my body in this space, the hot shop, as an empowering thing. And I saw it for people that came through these doors and did other types of crafts, empowering them. I think it's really come to light in this COVID lockdown era that we've been in, how important it is for people to do things with their hands and how meaningful it is for them to have things that they make with their hands, be it food like bread and kneading or crafts. People long for that. Their lives were empty without these things that made them feel human. Like, so this began my dialogue when I saw all this happening, began my dialogue about monumentalizing crafts. So I took a standard issue craft kit that you'd find in like a classic craft store. Yeah, I didn't want to do the advertisement.
I'm sorry.
But
yeah.
That typically was sold, marketed to women and kids, and it took the power of craft out of them because they're just putting beads in something. Like they don't do any like real thinking about what they're doing, and making that into this monumental, like sort of juicy sculpture. That pink is so pink. It's that pinkest pink you can get in glass. Erbium pink. It's really rich, juicy color, and I chose the juiciest fruit. And I was like, it's very feminine.
It's very seductive.
And sexualizing that craft, eroticizing the craft, and then monumentalizing it as well, putting all that into it, like the things that were taken out of it by this culture we live in, this society here in America. So
yeah, you're giving the labor some really powerful and sensuous some presence and visibility. Making a giant peach also kind of plays with these ideas of high and low. So the next slide is painting of glass souvenirs sold on the streets to a growing number of tourists in Venice. Acquiring these works brought such satisfaction to a lot of collectors because one, they could have a way of showing them off in their homes, which is really important. And the catalog for the exhibition goes into that pretty in depth, but also for a lot of people who continue to collect souvenirs, it really is also just this way of holding a memory of a trip and an emotion. And there's a lot of really, I think, power in that as well. So I wanted to juxtapose that with your your sculpted work of dogs and toys, and thinking about this idea of souvenirs and how, again, you magnify the work of glass makers. So traditionally been seen as making trinkets, and you are monumentalizing it. So can
Just
you
sort
talk
of
a little bit about the
life-size.
dogs?
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
go
These are
ahead.
sort of life-size animals. Well, I watched many a maestro create a small a tchotchke or a souvenir for people, and I saw how much skill went into that, and then how diminutive that thing would be because we were limited in, and just the power of scale in this regard. And I mean, souvenirs are sort of fetishistic objects, like people fetishize them the way they also fetishize their animals. So it's like really talking about human psychology. There's a lot wrapped up into it, that what we're attracted to, how we're attracted to it, but also about skill and crafts personship, like making things gets um, lessened. It's diminutive because of the scale. So I wanted to do things people could relate to as like their own pets, and just to impact what it really means to make things. And also, you know, a lot of this work I put a little sense of humor into. I'm talking about it very seriously, but I mean, my nature is to be approach life with some humor a lot of times, and
Yeah,
the
I
work
mean,
has that in it too.
those are hot sculpted rawhide bones.
Yeah, yeah, total fakes, not real. So I really love those pieces.
Me too.
They're very sculptural objects. I love sculpting, and so I
Yeah, we
find
can-
things that can relate to my ideas in a sculptural way, but also challenge me technically. I mean, knotting glass like that's pretty fun and hard. So technically, I try to challenge myself as well with objects.
So a lot of the vessels, as I said previously, were used to decorate homes and then would again show up in these paintings, all as these signifiers of taste and elegance, and also as a way to tell the story about a person. Again, it's this way of the object becoming a surrogate for a person. And so next, we're just going to walk through a few more slides that help draw out some of these ways in which Deborah herself has been putting her own experience and self into her works. So first is the powerful almighty potato.
Yeah, that piece came to be from a challenge on the Blown Away series, which was a botanical challenge. And I chose to make something sort of atypical, not only that I found incredibly beautiful in the world, the sprouting potato, but also that had metaphorical power to represent marginalized people or anything othered, shall we say, like that wasn't giving credit because it didn't look like the standard issue advertiser's idea of what beauty should look like, and how other things are even more powerful around us, but aren't, because of their didn't have the same capitalistic worth, weren't marketed to, and therefore we didn't see ourselves on the TV screens when we turned it on. And so all these things are around us all the time that are incredibly powerful. And I wanted to represent them. And this potato is what, to me, in the botanical world, represented that subject. It's become a very meaningful piece to me. I associate it with it very heavily. And a lot of people that have written to me also agree and reflect that. I love that piece.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so powerful about it, is how it is surprising, and it's also so relatable, because it is something that The potato is, you know, is very important to global food production and can feed so many people versus flowers. Also, on that note is the idea of a lot of your work is not intimidating. It is very welcoming, and thinking about gum is a wonderful way of pulling people in and thinking how we can see beauty in everyday life, including on the steps to the subway in New York.
That's where I found the inspiration for this piece. It was like someone had just expelled a gumbo and just sat there all like delicate. And I just saw that humans are constantly doing these things which we don't consider art, but really are, like chewing and blowing, like you get these amazing forms. And I like what you said, that this is not intimidating. It's like there's a surface. Everything has a surface that's an object. And I want my surface to be inviting to so many people, to not be off-putting to anyone. So that's these subjects of food subjects in particular, a lot of people can relate to. But then once there's supposed to be sort of conversation starters in a way, like subject starters, where there's many layers of meaning that can go beyond. So that's what something like the gum can do.
I also appreciate that as a glass blower, you're finding a really novel way of talking about breath and glass and the relationship.
Yes, it's true. Like every piece that I blow has my artist breath going into it, or my assistant's artist breath. And I mean, the gum really lends itself to glass blowing, and just a poetic beauty that's not typical. It's also this poetry all around us, and visual poetry I'm talking about. And that's what I'm looking for. And a lot of my subject comes from the 4-block walk of between me and the subway. So it's amazing how different every day is out there and what I can mine from it. So.
Well, that leads to our next work, which is also for a lot of people, drinking tequila and having dinner. And you've taken these really elaborate Venetian vessels and you brought them down to earth, literally with the worm on top. Could you talk a little bit about this work?
This series, the Venetian style series, is really impacted by this idea of high and low. Certain things are considered high art or low art, or high food, high cuisine, haute cuisine, or street food. And with this series, at the top of this is a tequila decanter, and at the top of that tequila decanter is a Venetian style worm. So the Venetian dragon is the stem of many goblets. So my tongue-in-cheek version was sort of idolizing the tequila worm on top, which is the earthworm. It's not necessarily an earthworm in the tequila bottle, but this is an earthworm, Venetian style, which gives a lot of nutrients to our common everyday soil. So I'm sort of idolizing that worm up there and really putting the tequila and the tacos on a pedestal, because for me, that is high cuisine. And it is amazing food. I don't see high and low when it comes to things like that. And I consider myself a master of something. So I am taking this like so many ways, or so many different ways of looking at value and worth, and there's not one's greater than the other. So.
Well, I agree with you, except for the fact that I think egos really are greater than everything on Earth.
Oh, yes.
And here is your, again, this is another example of thinking about things that often have a low value, like frozen foods, and elevating them into these beautiful works.
Yes, these are your standard issue frozen round waffle, not the Belgian doughy kind of waffle. And it's just speaks to American culture and how we, once again, we we fall in love with these things that are food and just, I mean, like when you love something, it elevates it, right? So these things become elevated because people fall in love with them. This is part of my hashtag buffet collection, which was a series of editions I did after the Blown Away finale, so that I could sell editions to people that wanted to support me. So this is one of the editions.
And then your upcoming work, before we talk about Meat Chandelier, is related, and this is the next chandelier you're working on, turkey carcasses.
This is I'm gonna make a joke. This is the body of the next chandelier. So the next chandelier is called the poultry chandelier. And this chandelier might actually be on the ground. I don't know the definition of chandelier, but it actually might exist in a pile on the ground. Thanksgiving's coming up, and you know that it's not always the most joyous holiday for everyone out there because of the history of what happened. And I began to think of these turkeys in a different way when I started reflecting on like what does that object like what is it laden with? What kind of meaning does it bring? And I was originally using it as sort of the female body because it kind of takes the pose of like a lot of classic paintings where the female was
reclining
the muse,
nudes.
the reclining nude, yes. And so that was my original intention. And then I was like, I can't deny that it's a turkey. So I started thinking like it's not done yet. So it's evolving as we go. But the lights were going to come out of the necks, like the head would be the light. But I was thinking of them just all thrown together in a way. I don't know, it's still evolving. So I have to.
The surface of this turkey is just so beautiful.
They do, I mean, they are pretty lush. It's, I do like to bring some sensuality to the pieces with the glass.
Yes, and I think this is the baster.
Yes, this is a
You said no for-
fertility piece I'm working on. It's like for artificial insemination, it's like a fertility piece for queer people actually. So this is going to be a hanging mobile of these pieces. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a mobile, but all these things
so
can
the
change.
baster won't be part of the turkey chandelier?
Oh, good question. I wasn't originally thinking that.
Okay.
I was thinking it was going to be separate.
Okay.
But you know, I'm still playing with all these elements. You're actually, everyone's getting to see some things that are a little incomplete actually, and totally complete works. But that's the way it happens. One thing builds on another as I start getting more components and talking to different people about ideas. So, but the basic element of the idea will be in there. Maybe it will combine, I'm not sure.
Well, the completed work that's currently on view in New Glass now is the culmination of so much of your career. It is this epic work of really virtuoso glassmaking techniques to create this sausage fest. And just wanted to get your backstory of this work.
Well, since I was like using my own skill as subject matter for the glass and my own presence in the hot shop as subject, which I think is really important to have role models of diversity in the hot shop so we can like get different voices in here, not just this standard issue Western approach. So I thought, what would I make if I was a female maestro back in the day in Venice? And the vernacular of the maestro, it's animals, fruit, chandeliers, like there's classic things people make. And so I wanted to make a commentary on the hot shop and use the two things I really enjoy the most about glass, which is light, making lights and food in glass. So I combine the two. and it's sort of iconic vision of it's just really about empowerment and celebration of an alternative approach to being and changing the paradigm of being in the hot shop.
And establishing a paradigm for you is really centered on matriarchal leadership and mentorship, and truly creating a new field for hot shops that are much more open to all kinds of forms that can come from the streets of New York to whatever anybody else's experiences are.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see this change happening now. It's really amazing to see different visions of what glass can be. And my role is to just open the door so people can walk into it, to empower other people. A different kind of leadership. It's just creating opportunity. I mean, sometimes it might look at like mentorship. If I have the time to teach, I don't always have that time, but it started to take shape. I want it to take more shape, but mostly it's about opening doors. So other people can walk through those doors that didn't even know glass existed. And it's happening. It's very exciting. And I've gotten a lot of feedback that having me in the hot shop has been very meaningful for people coming into glass, trans people, people of color, Black and people, BIPOC people of, BIPOC people. And like they said, if I wasn't there, they wouldn't have been felt too intimidating. And that is really meaningful. So I want to keep opening doors for other people, because that's what happened to me. I wouldn't have been able to come into the hot shop. So I want to duplicate that experience, and it worked for me, and it can work for other people.
But as your work shows, you also had to upend a lot of expectations. So you are creating a new paradigm. With that, we are right at about 7:40, so I thought we could open the door to questions and answer questions at this point, and we can stop sharing unless you have anything else to say about Meat Chandelier. It is actually one of several works on view in New Glass now that are really about the changing landscape of glass art today, and really making it a more diverse space for a lot of people to come into the hot shops. So for people who come to the show or look at the catalog, they'll enjoy that feature of it. I'll start sharing. All right, so Deborah, I'm just going to start asking some questions that are coming in. What is the difference basically between Venetian glass and regular blown glass? Kind of can be the same thing.
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
What is the difference between Venetian glass and regular blown glass?
Well, Venetian glass is characterized by a lot of detail, a lot of bit work, thinness. It has a lot of little parts to it. Classic Venetian glass has cane working in it a lot of times. It's a really difficult working style. It's very challenging.
It takes many, many years. A more specific question, are the designs on the wheel covers all shaped by hand, or are they slumped in a mold?
All of the wheel covers were made by hand. They weren't slumped in a mold at all.
Okay, so they're all hand sculpted. And are the pebbles under the potatoes made of glass?
That's the soil. Yes, it's glass frit.
Frit. Okay. Works like Celadon Gum play with scale. What makes you interested in playing with scale?
Scale is interesting to play with. It has to do with the power of seeing the piece. That's one of the things. And like in the case of the peach, it was about monumentalizing something.
Mhm.
In the case of the gum, it's about just being able to see something that normally most people would overlook and showcasing that ethereal kind of look of the bubble.
Mhm. Have you ever made something really tiny in scale?
Yes, I just made recently some of the smallest things I've ever made at the furnace that were 1/2 inch big.
Oh, wow. Was it food?
What'd you say?
Was it food?
It was, no, it was for a piece of jewelry.
Okay. Here's a general question about your method. Deborah's sense of humor is evident in much of your work. Have you always used humor in your work?
True. Is that a true or
Yes.
false? Oh, I always do. Yeah, pretty much.
Early work that was lighting, would you consider that humorous?
Oh, that's design work.
Yeah. So your studio practice has always been inflected with humor.
Yeah. Like when I'm making a sculpture, a piece of art. But my lighting is not humorous, no.
General questions again. What kind of hurdles have you faced as a glass artist, and how have you handled them? Can you think of any specific anecdotes?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, glass is challenging on some levels some are obvious. One is physically. This is, you got to see this as a long, the long game. And you got to, for me, I've had make sure I maintain myself physically so that I can come into the hot shop the rest of my life. And then another challenge with glass is financial access. Like it is challenging financially to use glass as a sculpture medium and experiment with it. So being able to apply for residencies is essential. Getting in a place where you can actually afford glass in an experimental way is difficult, like especially in the beginning. That's why barriers to entry are huge in glass because it's so financially difficult. And so I was helped by a mentor actually, and when I
There are
first
a lot
started.
of great community-based glass shops throughout the country. But yeah, it's something where you usually have to go to a hot shop. You can't just, like crocheting, pick it up and do it on your sofa. So there are barriers to entry.
Yeah, it's tough that way. It really is.
Has there ever been something you wanted to make but didn't work?
Well, yeah, I mean, plenty of things have gone awry, I have to say. But that's where sticking with it really does help. Glass is one of those things you learn over years and trying as much as possible, different styles of sculpting and blowing, and making mistakes is the only way you learn with this material, really. I mean, the most significant way to learn. So yeah, I've done, glass can fail in so many ways. Like I've had things in the annealer that are 30-day annealing cycles and I had a power outage. And that's not because of me, like just the nature took its course there, basically. So stuff does fall on the ground, but I have a lot of control over it at this point. It's challenging, always. It's fun that way.
A lot of heartbreak, but also you know your collaborators well. And I can answer the next one. Is there a video of the Renwick showing you working in the hot shop? No, we do not have a video in the gallery. I do believe there are several videos of Deborah doing demonstrations at the Corning Museum of Glass in their hot shop. So I think you can find those through the Corning Museum's website or also on YouTube.
Yes, definitely.
Here's just a scale question again. What is your largest blown piece?
33.5 inches in diameter. It's a,
What is it?
glass Christmas ornament,
Oh,
all glass, done hot. I used to do a Christmas special. That was the world's largest glass ornament. That's what I called it. And so the biggest one is 33.5 inches in diameter.
did someone
a lot of
just put it
volume.
in? Where did it sit next to the tree? Did the tree go
Yeah.
on
It never went on a tree. It
it?
hasn't killed anyone either, but it was challenging to make that.
Question from Blown Away. What inspired you to participate in Blown Away, and how did it help you learn anything about yourself?
Oh, yeah, well, I almost didn't apply because I was down to the deadline and I didn't have the application filled out. Luckily, I got it in just in time. But I was a little concerned how we'd be portrayed as glass blowers. Reality TV has gotten a bad rap over the years. It's changing its image in recent years, but it's not like Jersey Shore or anything. Like, I didn't know if they'd want us to have conflict but they really saw the glass as the drama more
That
than
is the drama.
the people, I think. And I think they did it in a respectful way. I mean, the one question I asked was, would we have to live together? And when they said no, we'd have our own places, I was like, okay, I'm in. So what made me want, I really wanted to get in the public eye. I didn't have any really a public view of where anyone could see my work up to then. I didn't show in a gallery very much, and my lighting was sold salon style, so there wasn't a public place people could see my work. So I was like, wanted to showcase what I did, honestly.
Mhm.
Was there a second part to that question?
No, I was just gonna say what's so interesting about the paintings in the Sergeant Whistler and Glass exhibition, and that really show how romantic and theatrical glassmaking was to tourists going to Venice, is how Blown Away really was able to capture a lot of that as well. And Venice in the late 19th century really did experience this glass revival. Did you feel any of that from the Blown Away series, as far as thinking about visibility of glass throughout the United States and Canada?
Its impact has been huge. Yeah, there's programs are being filled. I mean, prior to that show, a lot of the schools in the Northeast were having trouble filling, their classes. They're starting to have trouble because obviously everyone's going towards digital. It's all where the money is, and they're disempowering crafts, like I said. And then suddenly it's in the public eye, and people see its worth, and people see the worth of the hand and how exciting glass is. And it really hasn't been a material of art for that long. The steel glass movement is like, what, 60 years old? I don't know for sure. Something in that regard.
In the 1960s, yeah.
So it's really new, and the excitement of it just really caught people's imaginations. There's a lot more interest. I could tell, like, people I know, they're just selling more work. Classes are filling. Huge interest in glass now.
That's great. And then just a technical question of how does the meat chandelier light up? I can answer that because I watched it install, but it's wired. With light bulbs.
It has little light bulbs on the end, but it's wired through the arms. And the arms, each one is an individual link that's linked with a metal fitting in between that I can articulate into position I want. I sort of figured the whole mechanism out myself. It was pain. It took a long time, but I got it. And it's just wired up through it and into a center hub, and then that goes up to the ceiling.
Well, related, someone asked, can you discuss your design challenges versus technical challenges? How do you make your design ideas come to life? Probably through trial and error. And
I don't understand the question.
Okay. How do you make your design ideas come to life?
Well, I start with a basic idea and then get it to the point where I can come up with some object that I want to make. And then after seeing some initial results, I have a dialogue with that work.
Mhm.
So if I'm really stuck, I mean, researching whatever it is I'm working on, like is the subject about meat, just reading about this history of things really does help get the imagination going. So it's about
Mhm.
creating connections with different elements. It's like missing links,
Mhm.
literally, because the links and sausages.
Unintended. Mhm.
God, how does that happen? So like missing elements in the, I mean, art's really tricky. There has to be, for this kind of work, I think some kind of point of action, something that makes it tell the story in a way. It is narrative.
Mhm.
It's tricky. But that's where that's where it just takes off. That's where it just becomes something other than just an object. Like,
So when you are working, do you use assistants in your studio, and particularly for large pieces?
oh, absolutely. It's
Mhm.
just really essential to have the right skill set and the right people out there. Otherwise, the work becomes really, really difficult and unachievable. So a lot of times, depends what you're making. You have to have someone almost the same skill level as you are. And a lot of times I do mentor people on the simpler things. I bring them up, and that's my style of education now, is an academic. It's training people, sort of a paid apprenticeship, sort of. They get paid, but I'm teaching simultaneously. So a lot of schools that have glass aren't trade schools. So people come out with the intention of being an artist. But a lot of the work we do to make money is kind of things that require some kind of production or
Mhm.
skill set that can produce objects that are functional, or in the beginning anyway. So that's yeah. Anyway, one of the things I do.
It's helpful to watch some of the demonstrations on the Corning Museum's Hot Shop page, because you really do see that the teamwork requires such a high level of skill. It's almost like watching a ballet with these moving parts, and it's really is a theatrical way of making something very technically difficult. We have one more question. Deborah, thank you for being with us this evening. You are an inspiration for so many reasons. What would be one bit of advice for those of us seeking to spark creativity?
Spark creativity. Oh, spark creativity. I would say meet as many people as you possibly can. I just think people are inspiring. Always just try to look at the world in a different way. And glass is a liquid. Try sculpting glass. It's always inspiring. Sculpting liquid is cool. So sculpting
Very
liquid is
cool.
hot. But
It's hot.
yeah, just interactions. It's about synapses, about things linking together and connecting. And you got to get your imagination soaring. And I think just try a lot of different mediums in the beginning too. Look at dance, performances, drawings, like so that's New York is just an art gallery everywhere. So it's kind of like pretty inspiring here. I'm amongst a huge group of people that's driven to make work. So I don't think every place has that, or that's good for everybody. I don't know. But I get energy from the people around me.
Well, I hope everybody watching this, thank you so much for joining. Please remember to fill out the survey at the end of the Zoom talk. And I hope you find creativity on your Thanksgiving table this year or anywhere else. And thank you so much for joining us. And Deborah and everyone at Urban Glass, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.